So welcome back to Icons and Circles, and we are privileged to have Ambassador Amit Dasgupta as also our guest this evening, together with Undersecretary for Policy, Undersecretary Erlinda Basilio. Anyway, yes, we were discussing about the different concerns that India and ASEAN um, have common interest in, which is the maritime, the freedom of navigation, and then the food security and energy issues of ASEAN and India. And Ambassador, maybe you can share with us the present trade relations between India and the Philippines right now.
Um, well, it's better to start with a positive story rather than a negative one. But I think India-Philippines trade relations is not as good as it should be. And you know, to say good, bad is actually in terms of comparisons. India-ASEAN trade is $82 billion. India-Philippines trade is $1.4 billion.
Okay, yeah, that's
You
a
know, so
drop in the bucket,
yes.
right?
And of course, if you take a positive spin to it, there are huge possibilities of engaging in order to raise the profile of the two-way trade. And one of the sectors which I think has enormous potential is the drugs and pharmaceuticals. You know, the generics, the medicines. India supplies medicines to over 200 countries in the world. President Aquino has made the historic announcement of a universal health policy, which basically means what? It means that nobody should remain ill because the person cannot afford to buy medicines. But if you are able to get affordable medicines,
Yes.
and you are able to get it at a price which is substantially cheaper, then it's a win-win situation. Some of the Filipino medicine in comparison to Indian medicines are 50 times more expensive. You know, so this for me is a huge sector. The second is that the Indian ASEAN free trade area, which we have signed already in goods. We're now looking at services. It's been signed. There are some concerns that the Philippines has. We hope to be able to address these. And the next joint working group on trade will meet end of April. And I believe that there should be a recognition, particularly among Indian business. Philippines should not be seen as a market. Philippines should be seen as a partner for development. You must invest for capacity building. You must invest for external markets. Now, if you look at the IT sector, for example,
Which
Indian
India's
IT
number one, yeah.
and Philippines IT can combine together to service global requirements. I mean, the space required is huge. But apart from just looking at BPOs, call centers, or non-voice, IT should be seen as an instrument of development. You know, the platform it offers on education. So I am extremely hopeful that this $1.4 billion is just a peep at what is actually possible.
Well, yes, because like what you mentioned, Ambassador, you know, the IT sector that's one of India is leading in that field, and I did ask this question. I don't remember who I asked, but I said, how come the Philippines cannot, you know, catch up with the development of IT?
If you pardon my saying so, actually Philippines is number one
in the call center.
in the call center.
In the call center,
It is
right,
number one.
right.
And if there is a debate between number one and number two, because India has now just become number one, that's got nothing to do with Philippines. It's the peso.
But I think
Yeah.
the IT and the call center is also two different
Yes,
divisions.
I mean, India is doing very well in non-voice
Yes,
operations.
yes, yeah.
And I think in non-voice, the Philippines has huge strengths. And in my view, the biggest strength that the Philippines has, apart from English language, hardworking, they think American.
Yes, yes.
That's very critical. That's very critical to service a market.
Right. With regards to what you just said, you know, that's why with the animation industry,
Yeah.
they would rather the people in this industry would rather come to the Philippines because of the mentality that
Yeah.
we could, the Filipinos could catch the mentality of, let's say, American humor or the culture, you know. But anyway, that would come under human resource development also. Like you said, if we could develop a cooperation between India and the Philippines in that field, that would be, you know, a good basis, also a good foundation for human development. But anyway, so aside from that, what about exchange of goods? I mean, products that.
I think what we've done is we have stuck to a traditional basket. We now need to expand this basket. And to a large extent, India-Philippines relationship has been one where exploration of possibilities has somehow been dormant for a long time. I believe this is undergoing a major transformation. And the two countries are discovering one another. And I say this in every platform. How can 1.3 billion people afford to ignore a country which is growing at almost 7% GDP growth rate? It's impossible for India to ignore the Philippines. And why should you? Why should you ignore the Philippines? If at the end of the day there is a multiplier in the relationship of both countries, but more importantly, if it impacts on the people, we all benefit.
Right. And well, I just reading the papers today. I read that Mega Wide Construction Company is teaming up with an Indian company to bid for the airport. If I'm not mistaken, it's the Cebu Airport. Yeah, so that's good news.
Thank you. Thank
Alright.
you.
And yes, ma'am. What are the other concerns that were taken up with the Delhi dialogue?
Well, we, we discussed the biodiversity conservation. We discussed also energy security and how to deal with the, with pandemics, as we have been talking about
Yes.
earlier. So
Yes.
we have to meet the health needs of our people. And Ambassador has just said that bilaterally we have been talking. I went to India for the bilateral consultations, and we went through the various areas of cooperation. And there was general recognition from both sides of the table that indeed there are so many things that we can do together. IT is one, and I think there's synergy when we bring our people together, because we have a vast pool of trained people. They too have a vast pool of very agile people who have been in the business for a long time. So if we partner with each other, I think we are going to make a very important contribution to the world in terms of trying to improve, say, education, for
I agree.
instance.
I agree.
We can reach the farthest village in our country, or not only here but in other parts of the world.
I
We
agree.
can
In the region,
we can
yeah,
help
see.
countries meet the Millennium Development Goals insofar as access to basic education, for instance, or even for people who cannot afford to go to graduate school. There are many ways whereby we can harness science and technology, particularly information and communication technology, to bring to, to address many of our challenges. It's an exciting possibility.
I agree.
If
Totally.
if you can, really work,
Partner, yeah.
partner with each other,
Yeah.
and bring to the fore the best in each other, so we can be contributors towards the attainment of many of the Millennium Development Goals, not only in the area of education but in health as well.
Well, talk about
Maternal
education.
health, for
I know
instance.
India puts the educational system in India puts a lot of emphasis on science and technology, and that's why I guess you have forged, I mean, you have made an impact on the IT industry because of the focus of your education in science and technology, mathematics, you know.
Yes, ma'am, but let me put it also this way. Um, India has 1 billion people plus. One way of seeing this is that it's 1 billion mouths to feed. The other way of seeing it is that these are 1 billion minds which can innovate. And the challenges of development that we face are enormous. We are a poor country. We are a developing country. And the development is skewed. It's uneven. There are multiple Indias that coexist. And while in some places you go and say this is world class, in certain others you go and say the poverty is enormous. Which means that whatever we do, science, technology, engineering, has to be based on an innovation which empowers. That is the essence of it. We have to solve developmental problems. The President Aquino says inclusive growth. What is this? It's development. It's the platform of development.
Yeah.
And you can achieve this only if you empower your people. And I believe that India and Philippines share huge common interests and huge common problems.
Right, challenges.
Which would bring
a lot
us
of
together.
challenges, that's right. Well, I was informed by your Secretary of Industry when we were there that you are already self-sufficient in food supply, that you were able to step up with the demand for rice, for example, and that you're self-sufficient in that, and
Export. The export too.
and now, yeah, probably export. But as we were talking with Yusek Basilio earlier, we have the International Rice Research Institute here in the Philippines, and most probably, a lot of those that are into the agricultural industry have come here also to study, So
Yes,
again,
of course.
yeah,
We have a
the
very large
scientists.
number of Indian scientists who are here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The IRI has a bank, so to speak. It's called a rice bank.
The rice bank.
Many of them are rice seeds from India. And the father of India's green revolution, Professor M.S. Swaminathan, spent several years over here in Laguna as the director of IRI. So we have a lot of synergies there. But, ma'am, if I were to just mention one thing, of course, India is today a net exporter of food from a net importer. But there was a time when we used to import milk. And today we are the world's largest milk producing country.
Really?
Yes.
Largest?
Largest.
Oh.
And if you were to go to any supermarket here, you would find that most of the milk that's being sold is actually from abroad.
Yes.
And if you look at the milk produced in Philippines, it costs more than imported milk.
Yes,
Now,
exactly.
it defeats all logic for me that a milk from a particular country is shipped, it's insured, it's packaged, you put freight charges, and it's still cheaper than Filipino milk. And I refuse to believe that the efficiencies in Filipino milk production are so low that imported milk would be more expensive. I think we need to find how dairy development and milk production between India and the Philippines can be a cooperative venture.
Right, yeah.
And Philippines become self-sufficient in milk.
Yes,
Milk is not just food. It has so many vitamins in
Yes,
it.
yeah. Well, especially for the children,
Yes.
and we still have a lot of undernourished children in the country. So yeah, if we could really have this cooperation, engagement, in the dairy industry together with India, that would just be, beneficial, like you said, a win-win.
I think so.
Yes, and ma'am, it was also discussed, I think, in the Delhi dialogue, for the security cooperation, because there's also a shift now in the region, in the how would I call it, the power shift. Well, because right now you have there Myanmar, you have China, and all this. How they say it, the shifting of policies, and so it's a big concern for the ASEAN and also for India.
Yeah.
And well, for the information of our viewers, Yusek Basilio will be ambassador to China. So you have our you know, like how they say, all around concept of the region, of the feel of, you know, and it would play an important part as you're being ambassador to China.
Yeah. Well, security is very important. Peace and stability underpins a durable or a long-lasting prosperity in the region and in the world. We can only be secure if we are able to safeguard the the sovereignty, the territorial integrity of our countries, and we respect each other, and we cooperate with one another to make this a better region, to make this a region that is inclusive. For us in the Philippines, the Philippine government views that our relations with our neighbors, with our partners in the Association of Southeast Asian nations, um, have an added value. They bring something with them when they interact with us. We learn from them. They too learn from us. For instance, when the President of India came here to visit, um, the Dean of the College of Nursing of the University of the Philippines was invited to go to India to discuss how the nursing profession uh, was, wa- how we developed the curriculum, for instance. We shared with them our curriculum because we have 5 years nursing course in some colleges. They offer 4 years. But we shared with them our experiences with regard to curriculum development, and I think it has helped them in improving their curricular offerings to prospective students of nursing. It is important because this health professionals play a very important role not only in the hospital system but in the health industry.
Right.
So that is
Yeah, especially
how
with
we
the
in the government views our relationship with our neighbors,
yeah.
with our partners. We share and we too learn from them. And in the process, we have a more resilient region. We have a stronger, a healthier region because we have health professionals who are able to meet our health needs and concerns.
Yeah, especially there are a lot of developed countries with an aging population.
Yes.
And definitely the nurses, the caregivers would be very crucial in taking care of their older generation.
And as we as we have we open our borders, we become a very porous border, and we become a greater community. It is important that people learn to deal with one another in ways that further enhance the capabilities of our peoples.
Well, the initiative of the Indian government actually is very admirable in trying to have a closer partnership, you know, with ASEAN. And this has been ongoing, constant process that you have. I think it's a strong, how they say it, a strong uh, need to have. It's like a social responsibility that you're playing in the region, in the ASEAN region. Your involvement, your engagement with ASEAN.
I must confess that India benefits enormously from this. So it's not that we do this for the ASEAN. We do this for ourselves,
Partnership, yeah.
and we learn enormously from this exercise. And what is foreign policy? Foreign policy is the pursuance of national interest, but it is the pursuance of our strategic
Yeah.
interests. And for us, the ASEAN region is a critical partner, and, and is a reflection of India's Look East policy to a large extent.
The Look East
Yes.
policy.
So it's not just that we would like to relate with the region, but we would like to relate with each and every individual member country very deeply. And that makes for a total engagement.
Yeah.
So
In fact, we are strategic partners.
that's right.
Yes. So this is, like you said, Yusek, you have the ASEAN 10 plus
8.
8
Yes.
dialogue partners, and India is one of them.
A very active one.
Yeah.
And it's a commemorative year.
Yes.
And
Is it
all,
the
all these
20th, the
activities
20th
which we
year? If
Yes,
I'm-
20.
yes,
the 20th ASEAN Indian
that's
partnership,
right.
no?
So
Right.
2 decades of active partnership.
And this was initiated by the leaders of um, the
ASEAN and
different, yeah, the
India
different.
and India.
Yeah.
All right. And Ambassador, is there anything of vital concern or interest you would like to share with our viewers?
Oh, I think the one thing that I keep telling myself ever since even before I came here, that if you were to catch hold of an Indian and say, Philippines, what does it mean to you? The chances of the Indian being able to respond coherently or credibly would be very low. Similarly, if you were to go and ask a Filipino about India, I dare say the Filipinos would know more. They might say Bollywood, they may say this, that, IT, they may even say 5s and 6s, but
What's
they
that?
would know more. They would know more. And I therefore believe that the one single thing that we need to do is to create an ambience of a more informed understanding. We need people to people understanding. We need governments to talk. We need civil servants to talk. We need ambassadors and diplomats to talk. But we need to spread the net so that multiple areas of cooperation can be built upon. That makes for a partnership in development.
Very tangible. Yeah.
That's why people-to-people connectivity is very important, and tourism plays a very important,
Very important role.
Right, but aside from the tourism, because you know, not everybody could really travel. I mean, afford to travel. But
That's your role. Print and broadcast media can do a lot to raise the level of
the
awareness
level of
about India here in
awareness,
the
yes.
country.
But
The
it's
role in the region.
well,
with
well,
ASEAN.
just to touch on that about the people to people, it's fun because there are also a lot of Indians working abroad, OFWs, and that's one of
And
the similarities.
professionals.
Yeah,
Even
professionals,
Silicon Valley,
yeah.
many of them.
The Filipinos, Indians, and all, and that's where they meet, you know. And then with some of the hotel staff that I was talking to, oh, you know, I met some Filipinos, and you would think that they met in India, but they met in Dubai
That's
or in
right.
other countries where there are a lot of migrant workers. And I guess still there is the goodwill that is established, no? And here is the picture that we have in the Delhi dialogue with
Oh, right.
Philippine
Okay.
ambassador to India and Undersecretary Basilio, and that's me on the far right.
Oh, right. Okay.
During the reception held given by the Secretary of Exterior Affairs, and this one was down
Oh, you
in
went to-
Chennai, yes,
Okay.
in Madras, and this one was all the leaders of the ASEAN. No, the last picture was the leaders of the ASEAN that attended the Delhi dialogue.
But you know, talking about the migrant workers,
Yes.
my first time I came to the Philippines was almost about 30 years ago. And I came here to study the Philippines Overseas Employment Administration. And I
you
spent
did?
about 5 weeks here
All right.
because the POEA system is a very strong system. And the protection it gives the overseas worker is very, very strong. We learned from the Philippines experience and we transplanted it into the Indian experience.
And improve it.
And we,
Remarkable.
yes, we learned.
Yeah.
And this is the dialogue. This is the dialogue. And Indians here in the Philippines are doing very well. I just was told that Miss Cebu is of Indian origin.
Yes, even
So-
our beauty contestant.
Yeah,
to
which
what,
was
Miss World, is it?
Miss
Or-
Universe,
or
no?
Miss Universe.
The second.
The
what's her
father
name?
is an Indian.
Father's
From
an
Bicol,
Indian.
no?
national.
And the woman, yes, yes. A very good combination, actually.
Good looking and very, very A very bright girl.
Yes. Yeah, because I think that that's one thing we have in common, India and the Philippines, is that a big chunk of our income, of the economy, is supported by the earnings of our migrant workers.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that has also helped tide us over during, economic crisis that has affected other countries.
Did you know that here you get a ready income from the remittances without your actually spending a dollar to get that money? No government spends money to get the remittances. The remittances flow. It's the most extraordinary way for a government to earn money. Because normally what you do is you invest money and you get a return. Here you're getting returns without an investment. So we are obliged to look after our workers abroad. It has to be the cornerstone of our foreign policy. Indians abroad, I cannot abandon them.
Yes.
I have to look after them. The same thing with the Philippines.
The same thing.
It's one of the
Yes.
pillars of Philippine foreign policy, the promotion and protection of the interests of
Yes.
our people abroad. In fact, even as we speak, we still have, we are also participating in keeping the peace.
Yes.
And we are in the Golan Heights, and 21 of our peacekeepers
The United
were
Nations.
taken as hostages by,
I'm so
by
sorry
one
to
of
hear
the
that.
Syrian opposition groups. But I was in Israel, and we were just talking about the security situation there, and they told me that the Croatians left, peacekeepers left, and they were thinking of putting some of their people there to ensure that there's
Yes.
peace and stability. But it so happened very early in the morning they were taken as hostages. So we've been working with Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, who promised that they will do their utmost to ensure that we're able to.
I know that we all pray that they will come to no harm.
We hope so too. Yeah.
Well, at this point, I'd like to thank both of you for your precious time,
Thank
for the
you.
precious time that you have shared with us, for your global views also, Ambassador and USEC, and we wish you the best in all your endeavors. And I know that you're one of our top diplomats of the country, very, very hardworking.
She's a friend,
No, I
no,
think
but-
she echoes sentiments of many people. I will lose a very dear mentor and friend.
But I think I feel safer.
You should talk with him.
I think I feel
You'll learn
safer
a lot from him.
in the region, with her being our ambassador to China. So I'm sure you can very how would I say, determined, very. Would you help me, Ambassador?
She will never
please?
have a dull moment.
I know what you mean.
Uh,
I'll do my utmost.
yeah.
And if my best is not good enough,
No, I'm sure it will be. I'm sure it will.
then God will take care of the rest.
Yes, well, and also again to all our women out there, happy International Women's Day.
Oh, happy International Women's Day.
Yes. March 8th.
March 8th, that's tomorrow. Ambassador, any last
No, thank you
parting-
very much
All right.
for inviting me and for allowing me to share the space with one of the most outstanding diplomats I have met in 34 years of my service. I can only say China's gain is my personal loss.
But it's I think it's for our um, the partnership with ASEAN, India, and also with the region. Really, we entrust to your hands.
So
Yusek Basilio, thank you so much.
you only have my best wishes for a very successful program here, and you're doing a lot of good for our people. And again, happy International Women's Day to all our countrywomen out there.
Okay.
Thank you.
And thank you,
you.
Ambassador.
So
for
thank
joining
you
us.
for joining us this evening. I hope that we were able to give little information about about India, ASEAN, and the initiatives being done, especially with the Delhi Dialogue. So good night and thank you. This is Consul Annette Ablan.